We'll unmute and check and make sure that this is working, and it looks like it is. All right, friends, it's 6 o'clock, so we're ready to roll when you are.
Not open. Whoa. That was on. Okay, let me try that again. All right. Friends, we will call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, February 2nd, 2023, our business meeting. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Here.
Mrs. Franklin, Ms. Fry. Here. Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomax.
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Present.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Motion.
To excuse.
Second.
We have a motion from the Deputy Mayor and a second from Councilmember Maxfield to excuse April Franklin. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Ms. Franklin is excused. Mr. Manager, any additions or corrections to the agenda as published?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Maxfield to approve the agenda or to accept the agenda as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
I'm
Any-
sorry. What? I withdraw that name. I'm sorry.
We have a unanimous
Yes.
Yes, I got that.
passing of the agenda as published.
Sorry.
And let's move on. I'd ask everyone to please join us to rise and pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, folks. And before we jump into the next part of our agenda, we do have a few special guests here tonight that we wanted to give an opportunity to say a few words, and they have something for our fire department. So if I could invite our friends from the Riverside JCs to please come up to the podium and just tell us briefly about why they're here, and can't wait to hear this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and residents. We're real happy to be here. I'm Julie Denning. I'm the CFO of the Riverside JCs, and with me tonight is Bethany Schaefer, which is the president for the 2023 year. We have been really honored over the last 44 years. This marks our 44th year in Riverside and serving our community, to have such a strong relationship with our police and fire departments and our city. And we love the opportunities we've had to partner with both of these organizations, but particularly the fire department, in the fact that we have partnered a lot with fire safety. We partnered in the beginning, offering donations for supplies for when they went to schools. We partnered with the 5K run that helped raise money as well. And we encourage and promoted fire safety because we did it during Fire Safety Week. So we've had a lot of opportunity over the years to partner with them. And tonight, there was something that came across to us that we thought was very important for our community. The fact that there is a national emphasis on educating our children, families, and senior citizens about fire safety. And as you know, we've had some fires here recently in our community that maybe if that one extra smoke detector or the stop, drop, and roll had been educated or had been drilled into where it was automatic, maybe we could have saved a few more. We've even donated in the past oxygen masks for pets, so that when pets are caught in fires and that, we have an opportunity in our community to save them. So we feel like this is just another opportunity. And we wish that a lot more organizations and residents would jump on board so that we can make this even bigger. But if we could have Chief come up. In honor of the commitment that we have to our community, the fact that we honor our partnership and appreciate our partnership with our fire department and them always being there for us, we like to be there for you. So for the National Fire Safety Council, the Riverside JCs This is says it sponsors up to 250 children or people to educate, $750 to go towards your cause.
Yes, well,
I can. You want to just step around real quick?
yeah. let's-
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, for giving me the time to come and present. And thank you to the city for always being there for us. And we hope to be here for you for many more years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Chief, I'll make sure that Tom earmarks that.
You just did. I saw it right there. All right. Well, thank you. A little bit of a last second presentation, but I know that the JCs work very hard and we're very fortunate to have people in our community like the JCs that are doing these things that are helping so many folks. Moving along, we will move on to the portion of our agenda where we have a presentation ready. So, Mr. City Manager, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'd like to introduce Mr. Greg Thurman with Redwood Development to make a presentation and introductions to council.
Good evening, folks. My name is Gregory Thurman, VP of Acquisition for Redwood. And I'm hoping to introduce Redwood to those that aren't familiar with us. We are in 8 communities throughout the Dayton region. Remember the first day I met Naya to talk about this property, I gave her a list of a couple of dozen references, including mayors, trustees, zoning administrators, different folks throughout the region that I've done business with, that Redwood's done business with. I'm always the point person because I'm the first one in the door, but we have a longstanding experience here for the last 10 years in the Dayton market. So I just have a slide presentation that's relatively quick. I won't read every bullet because you have access to this, but I'm hoping that if there's a question that comes up, then we can have a little Q&A a little bit here. So who is Redwood? The highlight here, we've been in business 30 years. We're an Ohio-based company. We own and operate and have built 15,000 units over those last 30 years. This is a graphic of where we build currently and the result of being in business for those 30 years. I think we're in 10 states and 20 different metropolitan statistical areas. What do we build? Basically, we build a single story, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car attached townhome. They are built to luxury standards with granite and stainless steel appliances, luxury vinyl tile throughout the whole floor that's waterproof, LED lighting throughout the units to minimize cost to our residents. So there's an extensive list of our construction methods that are are considered above par for minimum building standards. Who lives here? So we have proof in our concept. Obviously, we've been in Dayton, like I said, for the last 10 years. I opened up this division, and we have in the Dayton market, I guess we have about 1,500 residents, and you can see by our Google rating there, we get a 4.7 rating. We take an exit interview and an entry interview when somebody moves in or moves out. So this is the result of those 2 surveys. We know the site, so I won't cover that because that's not what the zoning is about. The preliminary development plan will be presented. If zoning is approved for a PUD, that will come in the next few weeks if that's the case. But that's the site there on Union Schoolhouse Road. This is a preview of what the plan will look like with the roads, the retention ponds, grading, and a few of the details. So this is going to be very close to what you should expect to see for our preliminary development plan, should we be fortunate enough to proceed after zoning. Architecture, I got some pictures there that are easy to look at. There's an example of a retention pond. We typically will embellish those areas with a fountain, walking trails, or some amenity that makes it more useful than just collecting water and releasing it slowly downstream like a retention pond's supposed to do. That's fine. The interior, I mentioned, we are luxury style townhomes. We have granite countertops, cathedral ceilings, LED lighting packages, 90%. Every unit gets a 90% high efficiency HVAC unit. We use 2x6 stud construction on our insulated walls. We're pretty serious about keeping our utility bills as low as possible for our home renters. And that's who we are in a nutshell. We've been doing the same thing over and over. It's all we do. We build single story townhomes. Any questions on any of the slides or comments about anything?
Questions so far? Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Okay, well, thank you for that presentation, Mr. Thurman. Moving along the agenda, we've all had the chance to look at our meeting minutes from our January 12th work session and our January 19th council business meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes as published?
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. As some of you have already done, if you would like to speak tonight on any agenda or non-agenda items, there are slips in the back of the room opposite the council front here. On that sheet, we ask that you please clearly print your name and home address for our records. In addition, please check if you're going to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, because those are two different parts of our meeting. And you can just hand them to Katie up here, our wonderful clerk. So we'll move into the department updates and I'll turn it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First up is finance, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Garrett in case he has a couple things he wants to say about the latest happenings in the finance department. Not that anything's been happening in the finance.
Nothing's been
department.
happening.
No news is good news.
No, as usual, it's that time of year when it's a busy time, finishing out 1 year, reporting, getting all of those tax forms out, W-2s to employees and 1099s to contractors and other reports that everybody seems to want. At the same time, of course, getting set up for the new year. And then at the same time, we're transitioning to our new software. So we did use the new software last week on payroll, found a few discrepancies that we had to go back and adjust. We're, of course, trying to do our first bill payment run this week, so we're still in the process of that. In fact, I've still got, there was a pause, if you will recall, between our stop use date of the old system and the new system being active. So we had a pile of transactions that still have to get entered, and there's a few more that still haven't been entered yet. So we don't have everything into the January books yet, but we'll have those pretty soon. Other than that, as you're aware, you passed the ordinance authorizing the Right Point note renewal. Of course, now we've got all the paperwork exercises to get the note and all of the various documents together before that note renews in mid-March. So just keeping us busy. That's about it.
And I do want to give Tom and also Crystal in particular, but also the rest of the staff really a lot of credit. A software upgrade like this is not an easy undertaking, and certainly we are living through the things that you inevitably discover when you switch software, like the little bugs and edge cases that you have to tackle. But everyone is doing an admirable job, particularly Tom. And we are really honestly a lot farther ahead than where I expected to be right now this week. So again, my appreciation to all the staff for all their patience. I know Tom has been ready to throw me out of the building more than once this week and last week. But we are making a whole lot of progress. And
There's always next week.
there's always next week. We'll go right in the concrete out front. But no, it really, we are making a lot of progress, and we will end up in we already are in a much better place, I think, compared to where we were even just a couple of months ago. And we'll continue that progress. So thank you, Tom.
So I will say this, it's weird being on this side of it because I'm normally on Tom's side of the house with these projects, or well, behind Tom in the dark depths of the computer. But the fact that this project started in October, is February, and you're almost done, is kind of a testament to the staff here. I've had projects that have gone 2 years, 3 years, multiple tens and tens of thousands of dollars over budget due to extra consulting work. So the fact that we've mitigated risk, we've stayed on track, things are where they're supposed to be and moved at an expeditious fashion speaks to how much dedication and effort was put in from the finance department and all of the city staff. So thank you all for that. I know it could have been a lot worse than what it was, and I'm extremely proud of the work that you all have done.
Thank you. We'll keep working it.
Any other questions for Mr. Garrett at this time? I know we all share in that appreciation. So we'll move on to the administration department.
Mr. Lohr.
Good evening. I have two items I'll mention tonight. One is we're making progress on the classification and compensation study. We have a number of employees completing questionnaires. And the purpose of those is to identify exactly what everybody does in their position, so that the consultant can understand them and find some comparable positions and wage ranges in some similar jurisdictions. So once we get that done, we'll be well on our way and be able to start gathering some wage ranges from other jurisdictions. The other thing I'll mention is we're planning on next week discussing electric and natural gas aggregation again. If you can think of any questions, anything that you might like to have answered, just let me know and I'll be glad to research that and get you an answer.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Lohr at this time? All right. Thank you very much. And back to the city manager for community development and city manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And since Ms. Holt is with us this evening, I thought I would invite her just to give a few updates on what's been going on in community development.
Good evening. Just a few things. We have been working, as you know, on a few text amendments, the land use plan as well. So I'll give you that one first. The land use plan, we received a first draft and gave our comments back to the consultant, MKSK. Hopefully they'll turn that around in a couple of weeks and we can have something to share with the planning commission and the steering committee soon. We have been working on the property maintenance code and have a final draft to review. We'll take the next week to do that before we send it back to the consultant. And some other big news, big thank you to Lori Minnick. She did a lot of legwork on this, over a year of work. And we finally have an announcement that happened last week. The demolition and revitalization funds were awarded to Montgomery County, and we are in line for that. So we can do a lot of good work with those funds. So we're really excited about that.
And just to piggyback on that, when I first started 2 Octobers ago, Lori came to me and said, hey, we really ought to jump on this for some of the bigger nuisance buildings that we have in town. And so she really took the lead in chasing it. And I really appreciate all the work that she did and our partners at the land bank. The state process was a bit lengthy. We were hoping that this would have been wrapped up last year. But despite that, I really appreciate all the work that the land bank did and the state partners that we have did to help bring all this to fruition, because now we can really move forward on some of those blighted properties. So very exciting.
Very exciting indeed. And I'll add that remembering that when Josh first joined us, that we were wanting to jump on those items right away and we knew there was some money available. Sometimes it does take patience on our part to wait till these other parts of the machine get moving for us to be able to access these funds and move as fast as we'd like to. But as we've learned last week and this week, that partnerships are great. And when they come through, it's very exciting for us as a city. So, but I'll let the city manager get the rest of his report.
Sure. That's actually the rest of my report. Is the other big announcement for us is that, as many of you know, in 2022, when Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, one of the programs that was included in that was the Safe Streets for All program. Been working with our partners at the Transportation Improvement District and our engineering consultants at Wolpert. We had sort of quickly identified that the curves out here along Harshman Wall and some of the other phases on Woodman would be a prime candidate to go out for some of those funds. And we shot the moon. We went for the whole corridor from Springfield Street to 35, and we were awarded $700,000 to complete a safety study for the entire corridor. I don't want to oversell it, but I think that's transformative for this community. What we're going to get out of that is a 30% design plan that contemplates the safety elements along the road, potentially realigning those curves, the Harshman Wall, bicycle, pedestrian, transit, all of the things that we've heard the community express through our land use plan, and to look at that in a comprehensive way along the entire corridor, and then to get right back in line for funding. So it is a tremendous opportunity for us, and I'm really, really grateful to all of our partners that helped us, the congressman's office, the senators, our state delegation, the governor's office, everybody that gave us letters of support. We had a lot of regional backing for this. And we are the highest planning award in the state at $700,000. So second highest award in the state overall. I think Columbus was the highest, and they got a couple million for actual construction. But it's a big win for us. So
a few million between friends.
yeah. But no, it's great. And it really positions us well. The land use plan, as many of you know, calls for looking at this area as a potential city center kind of an area. And this is the plan that will let us start to build out the infrastructure to support that. So it's a lot of wind in our sails. It's great.
Questions for either Ms. Holt or the city manager? All right. We will move on to public comment on agenda items. We do have some forms that were turned in for that. We are going to call off the folks to speak in the order in which they turned in their forms, the best we can tell. We would ask that when you are called to please come up, state your name and address for the record. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we will start with Mr. Robert Allen.
Good evening. Robert Allen, 7544 Union Schoolhouse Road. Okay, I really only have two things that I wanted to bring up. Number one, if you've looked at an aerial of this property, Google Maps or some other type map, it's pretty obvious that the highest and best use of this property is for residential development. It's an infill site, it's a donut hole, and I think Riverside agrees with that, exemplified by the fact that it's currently zoned R3, although if you're redoing your comprehensive plan, I don't know if there's going to be any changes, but for the moment, it's R3 medium density residential. Okay, so what does that really mean? I think there's a lot of people that don't understand that if I've read the code right, R3 medium density allows multifamily, and in particular doubles, and in particular units with a minimum square footage of 600 square foot each. That means it's possible under the current zoning to have a subdivision of doubles with very small units, which would be less attractive than the proposition that Greg has made from Redwood. So I think it's pretty obvious that Greg's plan, which has units with a minimum square footage of 1,300 square feet with attached garages, would generate more income for the city from either property taxes or income taxes of the residents who would presumably be somewhat upscale, more so than a series of doubles with 600 square foot units. So I just want to clarify that development of this property is not a question of if. It's not if it's going to be developed, it's one or the other. It's either the proposal that we have, which seems to be an attractive proposal, or something that could be much worse. And I guess for that reason, I would respectfully request that this rezoning be approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Next, we have, I believe it's John Callaghan, 4126 Loyola Chase Lane, Dayton, Ohio. I apologize if I pronounced the last name incorrectly.
Pronounced it correctly.
All right.
My name is John Callaghan. I live at 4126 Loyola Chase Lane. That's Dayton 45424. I've kind of reviewed the proposed PUD, and there's several things in it that kind of bother me. The proposed PUD circumvents several City of Riverside ordinances. The current R3 district does not allow multifamily residences either as a permitted use nor as a conditional use. That's contrary to what you just heard. When I say multifamilies, I mean more than 2 units. This zoning district does allow single family and 2-family unit residences. The surrounding neighborhoods are all either R3 or R2, containing many hundreds of single family homes. There are no multifamily units in this area. Closest ones that I'm aware of over on Harshman, which is more than a mile away. The PUD also circumvents the minimum requirements of the R3 district, including lot size, yard setbacks, and maximum lot coverage. Maximum lot coverage is currently 50%. There is no limitation in this PUD. It also circumvents a couple of the subdivision requirements, including right-of-way width, private streets mentioned in the PUD. There's nothing in there about the width of those streets. I think the fire department would be interested in knowing if they're wide enough for emergency vehicles to get down. Also does not mention sidewalks. Your subdivision requirements do require sidewalks on all streets in Riverside. The only mention of a sidewalk is along Union Schoolhouse Road, and there it says it may be put in, okay? And that, when they use the word may, that means they're making no commitment to doing that. For these reasons, I'm asking you guys to vote against this PUD. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We next have Kelly Bush from 7240 Union Schoolhouse Road, Dayton, Ohio.
Hello, I'm Kelly Bush from 7240 Union Schoolhouse Road, Dayton, Ohio. The picture that was up there earlier showed our property as an enjoyment directly connected to the Allen's property. We are not across the street. We are not across anywhere. Our farms connect. And we have a major concern regarding if this development comes in, if you pass it to PUD, which a PUD and R3 is really not much difference. I've called the state governor's office and I've talked to them about it, and they gave me, there's a lot of things that are similar. There's not a whole lot of difference. You have to abide by rules by the city, no matter which one goes in, you have to abide by rules. But you can develop anything on either one of them. But when a development comes in and disrupts the land next to mine and has a possibility of disturbing my water, cutting it off, or polluting it, it becomes an issue. So I just need to know from Redwood what they're going to do to prevent from my water being shut off, being contaminated, or disappearing altogether. Because we're on a well. We have no option to be connected to the city. We tried, that was not even offered to us, and it's not possible. We are on strictly electric heat and our own water from our own natural spring. So I just like to know what's going to prevent that from happening to keep our water natural. Another thing is there's only 40 homes on Union Schoolhouse Road with the Union Schoolhouse Road address. From our property north, there are 12 properties that have 2 acres or more. 2, 6, 7, 8, 14 R's, 18 the Allens, and the Corey Lane having large properties there. There is no apartments on Union Schoolhouse Road. It will not fit in. It will not look right. People move out there for the privacy, for the openness, for the enjoyment of the animals, and basically have a quiet little piece of heaven that's not, you're not in the city. There's not a bunch of craziness going on. With apartments going in, you've got people coming and going. You don't know who's going to live there. They're not going to invest money in their land. They're not going to devote all their money and taking care of their flowers or planting trees or making sure that everything's, so that everything looks pretty, or they're not going to do that. They don't care. They're going to make sure it's clean. Maybe their parking lot's clean. And then 4 years from now, when they get transferred out of here, 6 years not get transferred out of here, they're gone. Somebody else moves in. They're not going to take care of it. If that land wants to be developed, put in a nice subdivision that he started when he built Quarry Lane. Put houses in there like that. Why does it have to be townhomes? Why can't he continue building the homes that were built on Quarry Lane right there on Union Schoolhouse Road to make it look like a nice area that fits in? There's no need for townhomes on that end of Union Schoolhouse Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush. Next, we have William Bowers from 4201 Elms Haven Drive in Dayton, Ohio.
Evening, William Bowers, 4201 Elms Haven Drive. That lot is the corner of Union Schoolhouse and Elms Haven Drive. And I have a question for the folks on the council here. How many of you live within 300 yards of this property? Okay, how many of you have come up to Union Schoolhouse Road and taken a look at the property that's in question? You have. Thank you for at least doing that. Then you guys know, just like Ms. Bush said, that if you drive up Union Schoolhouse Road and you see the houses on your left, you see the houses on your right, this does not make sense for this property. It is too congested. This HUD planned unit development district does not fit there. It is we understand it's the first one of its kind in Riverside since you guys have changed the zoning and made the law. But that's not where it goes. We are single family homes. We do not want it. I personally do not want to look out my window and see it across the street from Union Schoolhouse Road. And my wife doesn't either. And that's the good news, is that I'm here representing, because she couldn't be here because she's angrier than I am about that. So please vote this down. Vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Greg Bush from 7240 Union Schoolhouse Road in Dayton. All right, thank you, sir. It was certainly your right to speak. We next have Yosef Elzian from 4906 Amberwood Drive in Dayton. Well, I'll expect one from you in about a month.
I'll be coming, yes.
Yes, that's right.
I hope this will not change your minds. My name is Yusuf Elzain, 4906 Amberwood Drive, Dayton, Ohio. I'm here not because I'm connected to this red barn. I'm not here to beg you to save it. I lived next to it for 22 years. If the owner of the farm doesn't care about that red barn, I'm not going to convince him to demolish it or not to demolish it. I'm here just to express my frustration with the process that I experienced personally, helping a friend of mine in Riverside on Valley Street with a 0.1 acre, less than 1/10 of an acre on Riverside, where I had to appear with him about 3 times in front of the planning board. And every time I get a conditional approval only because the planning board is concerned about stormwater going into the neighboring lots. It's 1/10 of an acre. The code doesn't require actually doing that. But yet an 18-acre lot is being unconditionally approved without proper due diligence. It's in front of you to vote on it today, but it was unconditionally approved by the planning board in front of you.
There's no site plan that's yet been approved.
And that's sitting, Mr. Mayor. If you read the recommendations that it's all based on preliminary planning that they provided.
Correct.
And the.
But I want to make clear that no site plan has yet been
Understood.
submitted and no site plan has been reviewed by our staff or voted on by this body.
Understood. I cannot judge. I'm not here to judge the engineering part of it.
I know, but I want to make sure that does not become part of the record, that whatever Redwood might be working on now is automatically what the staff or the city will ultimately approve of
Sure,
that site if we vote to rezone.
100%. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. The point is the recommendations from your staff, which I really appreciate dearly,
Mm-hmm.
trust me, was based on this preliminary plan. That's what I'm saying. And
Fair enough, fair
the
enough.
inconsistency that I witnessed 2 weeks ago was the fact that the citizens were not allowed to speak about their concerns. Those citizens lives just south of that property, and they were not allowed to speak about their concerns, except if it's related to the rezoning request. But if you listen to them, and I would hope that you do listen to them, their concerns are valid. Even Mr. Callaghan can speak to you about the flooding of Wynwood, which is in city of Dayton, of course, that it caused south of that development, which is in Riverside. You might not have the proper drainage in that area to take an 18-acre, which is mostly going to be hard surfaces. Or what I'm asking you is be concerned about the Dayton residents as much as you are concerned about the Riverside residents, because we're neighbors. You and I didn't choose for this to be the way it is configured. But please do your due diligence before you just blindly approve a PUD that is going to be 90 homes. The report from staff convinced you that this 90 home is an economical development for the city. I'm not against it. Nobody's against it. We're just asking you to listen to the residents that have concerns about this property. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And there is public comment available at every city council business session meeting, which is what we're having tonight. We have them twice a month. And at every one of them, there's an opportunity for Riverside residents, for any citizen, anyone at all gets their 3 minutes, and that will not be infringed. And Mr. Bush had requested 3 minutes. He decided to defer that for tonight. But as you heard me say, that is certainly his right to speak. And Joseph, I did not guide anyone in what they talked. None of the 6 of us tonight, or the 7 of us, one not present, guided anybody in anything they told us in the last 20 minutes. So, and this is because this is the forum where they can voice those concerns. What the Planning Commission was pointing out was that they're there to consider the zoning. They were not there to consider some of the things that were brought up. It's not in their purview. But I appreciate you being here, and I certainly look forward to seeing you again here when we do our proclamations, and always enjoy being able to do that. Finally, we have the last speaker is John Ziegler from 4238 Blue Rock Road in Riverside. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's John Ziegler. My address is 4238 Blue Rock Road, Riverside, Ohio.
Thank you.
So I've lived in Riverside for almost 30 years now. I'm a taxpayer, and I'm really proud of what we did in Riverside. We got our taxes in order to where we can have $500,000 in the black. So I think that's really great. And I think in the future years, it's going to be even more. Because I know my income's went up a lot since COVID's over pretty much now. So I think that we're not a community looking to add a bunch of bedrooms to raise taxes, more tax money. No, I think now it's more important to keep Riverside beautiful. And we got one of the most beautiful farms in Ohio right here. And I think that it's what we really need to look at. People need beautiful things to see, and bird song and things like that help people's, mental states of mind and stuff. It reduces thoughts of suicide, all kinds of things. And we got that right here. I don't think we need any more bedrooms. And it's just a beautiful place here. I don't know how much time I got left. So I was also worried about on the property, the waterways. They have the underground springs there. The Indian Springs is a waterway. That's the head of the waters for the creek that flows through the neighborhood there. And you can't, you can't change, waterways without, going through the county. And so I was a little bit worried about that. And the other thing that I did that you guys may not know about, I wrote the book, The First Settlers of Mad River Township. It's also called The Early Settlers of Mad River Township. It's at both the libraries. And I had to read every deed in this township of the first deeds from the early 1800s. I've read so many deeds, and I read all the surrounding townships too. So I've read so many deeds, it's unreal. And I wrote a book for every township, all around us, like 5 or 6, I don't know. I've lost count. I got some that I haven't turned in yet because of COVID. But I am pretty much, the only one that's ever done this. So I don't know if I can call myself a historian, but I don't think there's anyone else. But from what I've seen, the county has a record that says 1830 for that farmhouse. That's the best one I've ever seen. And the deed that I've seen for the original property is the best one I've ever seen. It has the wax stamp on it. It's amazing by that deed by itself. So I hope I didn't break any rules here or anything.
Certainly not. Certainly not.
And I hope I didn't go over my 3 minutes.
Nope, you can write, you have a closing argument if you have one, 15
Okay.
seconds.
Let's keep beautiful Riverside beautiful. We
Yes.
have lots of history. Air Force Museum is full of history. We got more history than anybody, so why not add on to it? And we got the possibility of adding placards for the Underground Railroad. The Miami Erie Canal is the railroad. That's what they used for the slaves to escape to the north. They follow the canal. If they weren't following that, sometimes they were following the river, Miami River, which is in Riverside also. So we have that honor that we helped freedom right here in Riverside already.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ziegler. We appreciate that. Okay. Those are all the slips that were turned in for public comment on agenda items. And I hope that anyone who thought that there would be any type of deferment or an approach by the 7 of us, April not being present, that we would not allow someone to speak about some particular thing. I hope that that's all those fears have been assuaged, and that simply is not the case, that we would not do that. Moving on to new business. We have a couple ordinances, and I just need a moment here. Riverside City Council allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be done by title only unless the council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only? Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion in a second. I apologize. I don't have my cheat sheet in front of me. I thought I had it memorized.
Second.
Okay. Now do I do that part?
Now we're good.
Okay, so we have a motion from the Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Joseph. The city of Riverside allows for the reading of an ordinance to be done by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230818, an ordinance by the council of the city of Riverside, Ohio, approving a change in the district boundaries as shown on the zoning map of the city of Riverside, Ohio, for the property located at 7544 Union Schoolhouse Road, parcel ID number I393 00201 0053 from R3 medium density, single family residential district to Plan Unit Development District, Redwood Riverside.
Okay, for anybody who maybe doesn't come to a lot of these, I just wanted to point out that an ordinance that the city considers and possibly passes has to have 2 readings. Tonight is the first reading. The first reading does not contain a public hearing component, but there will be a public hearing component should there be a second hearing, it's possibly in 2 weeks. So an affirmative vote tonight simply means that there'll be a second hearing or a second reading with a public hearing of the same ordinance. Is there any further discussion from members of council?
Yeah.
Mr. Joseph? It would potentially be 2 weeks from tonight. So it'd be the 16th. Yes. And as I said, there'll be a public hearing for that. Should this pass, there'll be a public hearing component of that ordinance passing. Certainly. Zach.
Yeah, got a couple of questions. So if in theory, that
Go ahead, sorry.
if in theory that this passes tonight and potentially passes at the February 16th meeting, bulldozers and construction equipment aren't moving into the property yet. This still has to go to the planning commission for a site plan review. And during that site plan review at planning commission, that would be a meeting that is open to the public, correct?
Correct.
And during that, that's where the issues where sidewalks and stormwater, the fire department will give their findings. Those concerns are addressed at that meeting, correct?
So we have given some comments based on our plan to the applicant already. So we'll have continued conversations once we get the final development plan that has more details.
Okay. And so after, if the February 16th meeting goes, then they schedule that, the timing of that meeting will be posted on the website. And then those issues and any types of revision to the site plan will be addressed at that time, correct?
At planning commission, yes.
Perfect. And that's like engineers get involved in that process, the works. Perfect. And so I think Mr. Allen kind of had a question there in his statement with how his property is currently zoned as an R3. So under an R3, could there be a development that wouldn't come in front of us that would have like a duplex, like two families living in one parcel with like different doors?
That's right.
So someone can go right now and present a site plan to the planning commission and start
Not
the
even
work.
Planning commission, they would submit it to the city.
City? Okay.
They
Yes,
said
but
they
they-
would, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but they would submit a zoning application,
Mhm.
provided it met the codified ordinances outline for R3.
And if they subdivided more than 5 lots, then it would go to planning commission because that would trigger a major subdivision review.
But not to review the type of houses,
That-
because
that's
that's already,
correct.
that's already
Yeah.
granted. The property can already
Mhm.
have these houses on
Yeah.
them.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, and so that really wouldn't come in front of us. So then really what is on the agenda tonight, what we're talking about is moving from an R3, which could already have multifamily units there, like a duplex, to a PUD. And obviously, the property owner and the developer, it benefits them or they wouldn't have came to us. But in either Josh or I, in your opinion, does the city stand to gain from moving into a PUD with this parcel in particular?
Well, I think all I can say is when I first started, one of the issues that was really important to council and I think to the community that we heard even in the land use planning process was having a PUD, a plan development district mechanism available to developers because it creates some flexibility to use parcels that have difficult geometries, difficult site constraints, and to really bring the highest and best use possible that the market will bear, but that also benefits the city. And it's a pretty common tool in use all across the country. So I think there are mutual benefits there, both for the development community and from the city in terms of, encouraging that development and redevelopment all across our community.
And just to clarify some things, our plan unit development, our PUD, is not an overlay. It'll completely change the zoning. So it doesn't have to meet the R3 district. It could be anything. It could be a commercial PUD. It could be a mixed use. It could have commercial in the front. It could have housing in the back. So it's really something that the city and developers work together on.
Right.
Just want to.
But
make
even with that,
clarification.
nothing would ever come to fruition unless it gets reviewed by the city. And if it's a
Yes.
major change, it's going to come in front of planning commission to review those kind of intricate public safety, public concern details, right?
That's right.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Yeah, I think planning unit development does not absolve a builder or the city from very well-established state law for water, for emergency access. I mean, things like that don't just get washed away because we came up with a fancy acronym. All of those things, Ohio Building Code, those things still matter. Those things will still have to be done correctly. And that's why our staff would be involved with that level of detail on the comment side before anything is presented to us. So anyway,
Even now on construction sites that are already happening, we have a partnership with Montgomery County, and over sites that are over acre like this would be, they're out there inspecting all that disturbed earth, making sure that sediment isn't getting into the stormwater or anything like that. So we're on site, even if there's a big rainfall, they're there at least once a week, or like I said, after that
Yeah.
rainfall.
Kind of the benefit here is that we know what the concerns are, right? With potential stormwater issues, potential traffic issues, public safety with the width of roads. But I mean, that's kind of not where I would come in without having like an engineering stamp in my back pocket. So I'm confident in the fact that it will go in front of engineers, public safety officials before ground is broke.
That's all part of that site plan finalization process.
Right.
Yes, all of it has to be signed, sealed, stamped by the appropriate people.
Yeah. Other, any other discussion, pardon me, any other discussion from members of council? Okay. Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. We'll move on to the next ordinance that we have in new business. Is there a,
Move to approve.
Second.
we have a motion from Mr. Denning and a second from Mr. Joseph. The Riverside City Charter allows for reading of the first ordinance to be done by title only, unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230819, an ordinance to approve employee position titles, number of positions and pay ranges, and to repeal ordinance number 220807, passed October 6, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And then we have two resolutions. I'll look at this city attorney for a moment. Dama, are we able to table the second resolution until after exec? Okay, if it's okay with everybody else, I meant to do that. It slipped by.
It's appropriate that we wait till we meet with the.
Do we need a motion to move it
Table.
back
We
or to
approve.
table it?
We approved the agenda, so we're moving the agenda item to the after the.
So we need a motion to table it
Yeah.
when we get to it. And then we could bring it back, take it off the table once we come out of
Right.
exec.
Calling on the floor, then a motion to table it, then. we vote on it.
Move to table.
Or
Well,
yes,
we got to get to the first one first.
Robert's rules.
Well,
I
was gonna say 28-24.
I apologize. I apologize, Mr. Denning. I forgot. You live with a parliamentarian, so you wouldn't make that mistake.
I could.
All right, so we have two resolutions. Resolution 23-R-2823. I won't ask the city manager to explain this because it has a lot to do with him, but I would just say this has to do with his compensation and we'll.
If the only thing that I might add is just that it's the same increase that is budgeted for the rest of the staff.
Yes.
Cost of living.
All right, so this is a cost of living increase for the city manager effective January 1st of this year. Do we have a motion?
I move to table resolution number.
No, we're-
Move to approve.
Move to second.
Okay.
Second.
So you motioned.
I motion.
All right,
To
we have a
approve
motion
it.
from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Maxfield for resolution 23-R-2823. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next resolution.
Move to table the next resolution number, right, till after executive session.
Okay, so we have a motion to table resolution 2824 until after executive session from the deputy mayor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Denning. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion is tabled. Madam Clerk, there were no slips turned in for public comment on non-agenda items. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move in to, just so everybody knows, we're going to have council member comments and then we do have an executive session planned. And we typically adjourn shortly thereafter executive session, but executive session is done with just the members of council. So, and for the reason listed on the agenda. So we'll move into council member comments and I'll start with Mr. Denning.
I have
Ms. Fry.
You have something this time. So last night, I attended the first suburbs meeting of the year. We had a presentation from RTA. They shared a lot of their things that they've been doing with transportation in the area. Very exciting. There's going to be they're going to build out a corridor that connects the east. So it'll, rather than everything funneling through downtown, we'll have a route that comes through the east side, connects the north and the south, which
Okay.
is exciting. They also shared some innovations they've been doing with fares to where families no longer have to pay anything more than $55. They maxed out. So it was a very exciting presentation. And it did give some food for thought about how, as we're doing our land use, thinking about how we want to make sure that all of our residents have access to those routes, because it is a nice amenity to have in the area. So yeah, so there's that. And the next blood drive is in February. So we're coming up on it, February 27th from 3 to 7. And that's all.
All right. Excellent. Thank you for the RTA update.
Mhm.
And the deputy mayor?
I attended Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission meeting this morning. Lots and lots of things are going on. There's multiple issues and concerns about quality of water in the area. And so there's attention being given to, and there, we're talking millions of dollars that the city of Dayton is spearheading a lot of it, asking for lab updates and ways to mediate the problem with, we're all familiar with, we all love the base and we appreciate the base, but along with the bases come some issues with the water. It's not at a dangerous level, but it could get there. And so the city of Dayton is asking for a lot of money. You'll be reading about it in the paper, because a lot of people don't understand that the water field that's out here, the people think it's in Riverside and it's not. And although we have to care and we have to support the city of Dayton's efforts to keep the water, or not have the water get any worse than it currently is, and mitigate a lot of those issues. And so you'll be reading about that in the paper, and a lot of it will be not local funds, because like the director said this morning, the MVRPC doesn't have millions of dollars to put into these, but it has to go through some mechanism. And so the MVRPC does a lot of things to create, make money available, and their support in getting things, as the city manager mentioned, they supported our request for the money for Woodman Drive. So they're great partners, and I look forward to working with them the next 2 or 3 years. So, but I do want to say regarding resolution 2823, because it didn't come out on the electronic,
YouTube.
whatever, people watching from home. Anyway, and I won't deny that I'm not an electronic guru, but the city manager has done an amazing job. This resolution to grant him a cost of living raise has been well earned and well deserved. And I don't know when we've ever had as active a city manager as we have in Mr. Roush. And the city is very, very lucky to have him.
Thank you.
I was able to attend a get together yesterday at the Air Force Museum, where Colonel Meeker hosted Governor DeWine and Lieutenant Governor Husted, along with the Director of Jobs Ohio and the Director of Development head, Lydia Millick. And it was a wonderful, nice update from the governor. Glad that he was here in town to give us some of the preview of the proposed biennial state budget. But the reason I bring it up is because
Yes,
everybody there was so excited about Riverside's success in the federal level to get that grant. And people could not wait to come up to me and say how excited they were for us. And Colonel Meeker's excited, as Josh, he replied to, or he sent a nice note to Josh. And I think that it is, again, a testament to the amount of connectivity that that Josh has been able to provide for us. And it was just great to see all these folks in the region to have that, not only support from people that don't always maybe travel in Riverside or think that a lot of resources should come this way. But the amount of folks that were just so happy that we're going to get this very important item, the Woodman-Harshman corridor, up and running. And whether it was the governor's office, Sherrod Brown's office, our state delegation, it was nice to have all those people so glad for us. And I know that they've been good partners, but now they've walked the talk in a lot of ways. So it's good to see that this is coming to fruition, and exciting time. So it was a nice experience to have, and I share that success with my council members, and we'll just continue to keep Josh and Naya busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
In regard to that event yesterday, I was very, very happy to know that had gone back to SRO. We had those in the past, and budgetary reasons, we had to do away with it. And I think we can credit the mayor and the school superintendent for pushing in a limited budget that we do have to put SRO, and then the governor to make such a big deal over the fact that it is important. And 1 is great, 2 would be better, 3 would be wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you have a chance, look at the governor's proposed budget. Obviously, there's a lot of back and forth that'll happen in Columbus between now and June 30th on those items. But things like mental health, things like school resource officers, putting more money into K-12 education, public and private, than there's ever been put towards that in the state's history. Investing in things that, as the governor would be right out front saying, we didn't always talk about things like mental health and the role that government might have in that to be a helper, as opposed to maybe being a gatekeeper. So it is good to see. And I also want to say thank you to everybody who attended the St. Helens Fish Fry on Saturday. I don't know anybody who wasn't there. It was a crowded place, but it was a nice event. And I am towards the end now of Catholic Schools Week. My sons attend Catholic schools, and we've had some wonderful events at the local Catholic schools here in Riverside, and also the ones that students from Riverside attend in the area. And thank you to those who support that and make that a part of our city. Mr. Joseph.
I have got nothing. I know, right?
Well, hold on. That can't.
Wow. I have a couple things. One, I know there was an incident earlier this week at one of our private schools. And I appreciate the police being there, handling that professionally and taking care of that. Thank you. I know it's always a serious situation, and appreciate you handling that. Thank you. Second, February is National Career Tech Education Month, which is near and dear to my heart. Also near and dear to the Riverside community. We have an actual career tech educational center here at Stebbins High School. Essentially just, the public awareness of career technical education and the program's importance for students of all ages. We've all heard skilled trades. Many careers are struggling right now for jobs, and that this career technical education is one way to continue to support that and build that and grow that. We have a lot of amazing opportunities here in Riverside for our students, and just want to kind of celebrate that and know how important that is, that we bring awareness and continue to build upon that. I know the governor's budget is providing an additional $300 million to expand CTE. I hope Stebbins takes advantage of that. I believe, talking to Mr. Burke, they are looking at seeing how they can do that and build upon and grow the programs that they currently have. So just want to say, bring that to everyone's attention.
Family Summit this Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe I didn't remember that. Family Summit this Saturday, 10 to 2 at Mad River Middle. Everyone is welcome. We'd love to see as many folks there. It's a large resource fair. And I think if you're a parent of a student or a young child, I believe the superintendent has over 40 different community partners that will have a table, including the city and our police and fire. But it is a tremendous event that the superintendent, the Board of Education has built out over the last few years, navigating through COVID. And now the last meeting that Josh and I attended, they were worried about not having enough room for the tables of community partners that want to be there to be represented. Everybody from Dayton Children's to the library system and everything in between. So it is a tremendous event. It's open, informational event, and it's open to the entire community. And I really do encourage anyone who's able to attend between 10 and 2 at the middle school to make a point to stop by. And again, thank you so much to the superintendent and his team for pulling this big event off, because I know it's not easy. And the city has helped as much as we can from our roles. And I'll be putting chairs away at 2:30, but that's my highest and best use at that event, as it turns out. But I know that there's a lot of folks that'll be there from the region to provide information and resources for our families. And that's a great thing about where we live, is that there's a lot of connections and a lot of things that are possible because of those connections. Okay. We will move to executive session for the reason listed on the agenda with a motion. We have a motion for the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Maxfield. Well, he said it first.
I said it. I didn't ever say
Oh,
it, but I didn't say anything.
all right, Mr. Denning, both of you, forget both of you. Mr. Denning, I'm sorry, second from Mr. Denning.
Ms. Lomatch,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. We are in executive session at 7:06 PM.